Within the framework of the steps of development and growth taken by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we have seen how the national economy over the recent years such a great increase across so many sectors, taking into consideration and taking the advantage of the natural resources in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the geographical and cultural location across the three continents of the world. Given this fact, of course, we have such a great, strong development and growth of development, where it has been one of the most important 20-country economies, given the G20 and one of the key players across the world for the world economies and the oil market, supported by strong and robust financial and banking systems and such great companies based on national Saudi competencies. Within this meeting, of course, we'll be shedding fresh light on the readings of the consultation of Article number 4 of the International Monetary Fund, which are based on consultations with the member countries and are also taken into consideration on an annual basis. The International Monetary Fund expert team members visit the countries, of course, collect the data and information, carry out consultation with the senior officials about the development and the economical policies in this given country. The International Monetary Fund experts have referred in their interpretations and readings about the strength of the national economy and the financial strength of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and their positive expectation of the national economy across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the short and medium term, while still more revenues and returns of the economy are still so strong. Today in this meeting made in the Corporate Communication Center, we have experts to speak furthermore about the decision of the International Monetary expert decisions, given the fact the ambitious Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And Directors, I'd like to welcome you, virtual audience. There are Dr. Abdullah Al-Rashidi, Deputy Minister of Finance for the economy policy, the holistic and macroeconomy analysis. Welcome, Doctor. Thank you so much for this invitation. Welcome on board. I'd like also to welcome His Excellency Dr. Abdullah Al-Babtin, Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Finance for Development of Financial Policies. Welcome, Doctor. Welcome. Thank you ever so much. Thank you so much as well. And also we have Dr. Through online, of course, Sidra Rahman, International Monetary Fund expert, Middle East and Central Asia. And also we have Dr. Muhammad Matni, an academic and economic analyst. Welcome, Doctor. Thank you so much. We are all happy to have you all on board. Thank you very so much for in this great meetings. We are very proud here as Saudis, no doubt. Yeah. Before we kick off, we will follow a short report about the most important things that have been reported in the International Monetary Fund reports about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 2022. Welcome back again. Would like to first start with the first topic, which is about the role of the financial policies to enhance financial stability for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I would like to start with you, Dr. Abdullah. Of course, it is of great importance to continue and maintain financial management through increasing the oil returns and enhancing the oil and energy prices. The question is, how do you assess this? But before that, of course, I would like to speak in brief what is meant by financial sustainability. Thank you so much, Mr. Talat. Financial sustainability is to maintain, to build a strong financial center that can be fully committed, of course, to the short and medium term commitments. As for your question, how can we assess our financial sustainability and management? I would like to answer this question in two parts. The first part is to build financial financial ecosystem that is integrated. The second part is structuring the non-oil system. The first part, if we look before Vision 2030, we see that we don't have like an integrated ecosystem of finance, but after Vision 2030 of the Kingdom was launched strongly, we see that the ecosystem is fully integrated. We see that we have the authority of efficiency of expending for the government projects and the National Center for the Debt Management, and also we have the program for the financial stability, and we also have the Center for the Development and the Growth of the non-oil sector products. All this ecosystem works in order to manage the financial stability and make it clear-cut and make it crystal clear for all decision makers and policy makers across the private sector, so that they can make own decisions and their own expansionist steps into the future. Of course, once this ecosystem is clear-cut or crystal clear in the private sector, this will also impact, of course, positively on the non-oil sector products, which also will impact the non-oil sector products which are connected to the GDP of the Kingdom. So the second part of the question is the structuring of the returns and revenues. If we look at our position before the Vision 2030, we see ourselves that the non-oil sector returns and revenues represent about 18% as from 1969 up to 2015, but after Vision 2030 and the core reforms that have created the entire restructuring, we see that it represents an oil sector product revenues and returns from 2016 up to 2021, which means that there is a kind of holistic restructuring which depends heavily on the performance of the non-oil sector. And it seems for me that it is 32%, it's a big percentage, 16%. I hope that it can be translated more and more. And I believe, if you agree with me, that the program of financial sustainability and balancing, when it was launched, of course, when it was first launched, it's a big part of which, because it is such a great control for the entire finance of the government, it plays such a great role in maintaining and controlling the financial ecosystem, each of which, of course, has its own roles and ability to contribute. And Doctor, we talked about, of course, we see how the previous violations without the ecosystem, of course, there were like a lot of violations. Beyond, it was more than 25%, no doubt. Even like more than 25. Dr. Abdul Wahab, we see great reflection on the national economy based on the policies and decision makers. The question is how financial stability can be achieved through policies. What are the roles of the financial policies in order to reach our own targets so that we can maintain financial stability? Thank you so much for this question. First of all, I'd like to explain one thing, that in the Ministry of Finance, we work through financial framework that is on the short and the long terms, taking into consideration policies that are planned to be implemented on the medium term. In addition to this, of course, the roles of the policies in order to achieve the financial and economical goals and objectives, in addition to the risk management, then national ones and global ones, within, of course, the framework of the finance and economy on the short and long term. Of course, short and medium term, we have within this, of course, in mind, we have so many policies, we have so many considerations, striking a balance between financial sustainability and the economic growth. Of course, based on this, of course, we can take the scenarios that can support the financial sustainability or the economic development and growth. As we've seen, the International Monetary Fund experts in their recent reports have referred to the financial performance of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They expect to be about 5.5% of the GDP, which was far much better than the expectation, the expected assessment, of course, or expectation, which was like 2.5% of the GDP. Thanks go to the enhancement and the improvement of the performance with the oil sector and non-oil sector, which reflected positively on the results and the financial performance. So we do agree that we looked into this, of course, in a short-term basis. It was just like 1 year, but today we're speaking about like a short-term and medium-term, which gives us a kind of stability. This is true. In addition, like planning, financial planning is not based on the budget itself. Rather, it is based on the medium term, which goes up from 3 up to 5 years, and this is something that we're working hard on. Of course, the Ministry of Finance, like identifying the policies and the directives and the trends. Dr. Mohammed, would like to welcome you again. One of the most important tools that contribute to the achievement of the national economy and the growth, which is so many initiatives, the efficiency of expending that has been highly praised by the International Monetary Fund, of course, experts, and also taking into consideration the initiatives. There are still challenges, of course, big challenges. So we have gone COVID-19 pandemic along with the repercussions, and again across what's going on across the world in terms of energy prices and the Ukrainian-Russian prices. I believe that we are in front of so many indicators. These indicators give us like results that we are really on the track. We are really achieving positive results, particularly when it comes to the praise and the by the international organization and entities such as the International Monetary Bank. Of course, it gives us like a fund survey. It gives like real indicators. Today, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is taking giant steps and quantum leaps. The positivity that we have seen in the report, a positive look into the future, is not just 1 year. We have gone. Everyone is aware of the fact that the world countries, most of the world countries, have made like a regression. While the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has made much headway and progress, in addition to the fact that the also a lot of things have been more positive. So restructuring, true. We are speaking today how we have reframed, restructured internally, how the budget will be more prepared, more ready, more like to be able to have like more financial stability. It is just like one individualized look that is based on 1 year. We're speaking about from 3 up to 5 years, how we can deal with these events. The program of financial balance, a lot of things, entities like have been established today. The authority of the efficiency of expending and the Center of Debt Management. 1 month, the guide was established 1 month ago by, of course, for the efficiency and management of expending. It is very important to have like general budget and balance, so that so it is no surprise. It is no surprise that we see so many positive results. Of course, the core of the success, first, it is the willpower, the passion of the decision makers and the leaders. So we see this, or let's see this, of course, the great support by the Vision 2030 and all the programs that have been created, headed by the Crown Prince. We have so many senior officials in the ministries. The ministries are no longer working in silos. They all work in tandem, in concert, such as the ministry. All ministries are working in unison, in tandem, in concert. In each ministry is connected to the other ministry. The success of one ministry is based on the other ministries, even the private sector. The private sector today is not working in silo from the public sector. It is true that there are two parallel sectors, but all they work, of course, for the national economy. The question is how to enable the private sector in such a way that it works for the national economy. I believe that taken together, they all contribute to enhancing as one goal to have the financial and economical sustainability and sustainability and stability. So no spread. Dr. Abdul Wahab, so many people ask me questions. What is the secret about you in the Kingdom of Serbia? Praise be to Allah. Yeah, we have the two holy mosques, and we have. But again, I'm speaking here about the G20 countries. Like we are speaking 2.7, and as you see, the International Monetary Fund Express said that it is 2.8. So we are going up while the weather is going down. So many things are going in. So the question is how this has not been negatively impacted on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Please go ahead. Thank you so much for this question, Dr. Talat. Frankly speaking, honestly speaking, let me take you back to 2020. Thanks go to Allah and the great efforts made by and the wisdom of the leaders of the Kingdom of Serbia, how they dealt with the crisis in such a wisely planned manner in comparison with other countries that have made such a great efforts, of course, in terms of planning. Again, so many countries, of course, suffer from the policies which is getting out and overcoming the pandemic or the crisis, even the financial policies and the plans. They have, of course, contributed to negative impacts and effects for them. But at the end of the day, the incentives and motivational policies, of course, have helped us for the development of the economy from the lowest level of the crisis, taking up us, of course, to the greater stages, and also depending on continuing with a high capacity level while still coping up with the expected demand. So take for example, if we take the expectation of the International Monetary Fund, it expected that the GDP of the Kingdom of Serbia will be 7.6. It was no surprise, of course. It is no surprise. The reason behind it, if we go back to the statement of the budget, of course, the Ministry of Finance at the beginning of the year, it was very close for different reasons. If we take just half of the year, this year, the first quarter as real data and the second quarter as estimated data and primary data, we see that the GDP of the Kingdom of Serbia in total about 10.8, supported by two things. The oil sector, which is expected to be 21.7%, and then oil sector expected to be about 4.5%. This is the first part of the year. The second part of the year, we have so many indicators, specific indicators, leading indicators, what is known as by economists leading indicators. True. This taken into consideration or taken together, of course, they give us like positive look. If we look into the labor market, we see so many job opportunities being generated. Yes, what happened in the labor market is so much promising. You agree with me, of course. You agree with me when we see that this kind of employment high levels will enhance the family income and also enhance consumption, family-based consumption. As you see, Mr. Talat, this is the key driver of the GDP, the non-oil sector. Of course, if we take this into consideration for the productivity, we have more than 700 factories that have been introduced into productivity over this recent 6 months. More than 700 factories that have been introduced into the productivity stage, and also lending to the private sector. It has been now about 14%, which of course grew up to 33% more. There are so many success stories that we are very much proud to narrate. We have, as we said, 2020, and now we reached up to 10.5. So this is the first and second quarter. This is very much promising, and we are very proud of. And job opportunities have been thousands for our national citizens. I'd like to ask you one question, but if you'd like to comment on this. The general finance maintained a lot of targets in the first quarter of this year. There was a surplus that went up to 135 billion, of course, which is more than expected. So it is very important to speak more about the financial policies. But before that, Dr. Mohammed said something very important. They said that there was a kind of harmonization between the private sector and the public sector, all of which, of course, both of which work in tandem, in concert, in unison through the financial ecosystem. The question is, this ecosystem that has come into play, what do you think about this? Please, can you answer this question? This is true, Mr. Tala. Today, we see a lot of motivational factors for growth and development, which is for the GDP, the non-oil sector GDP, particularly the private sector. Today, so many projects from the sectors here in the target sectors in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, a lot of has been, of course, localized and allocated so that they can lead growth and development and also the employment in the private sector. Back to your question, Mr. Talat, we've seen in the first half of the year, of this year, a good financial and economical performance that is very strong, that went beyond the expectations. Of course, a surplus in the budget was more than expected, of course, up to 135 billion, supported by oil sectors and non-oil sector products. Of course, it was also the expending was less, so the returns were about 640 billion, of course, riyals. So it was more than expected in comparison with the last year. Also, the oil sector and non-oil sector went up, supported by, of course, the oil sector went up, supported by the oil prices, and also this is very much connected to the improvement of the economic activities that we see today, in addition to the results of the initiatives and reforms that have been, of course, that have come into play over the recent years. In addition to expanding, we've seen 10% increase in the first half of the year, which made up about 513 billion. Of course, we do expect the, of course, the business to be increasingly growing for different reasons, such as like increasing the allocations of the social protection. Equally important, the citizens' account, in addition to the support to overcome the supply chain issues and problems. This is true, and the security. In addition to what? In addition to things relating to the statement made for the budget. In addition, of course, to projects in order to speed up their implementation, because they have such a great financial economic impact. Do you agree with me, Dr. Abdul Wahab, that the oil sector returns, which made up 75%, but again the non-oil sector returns revenues, which is about 5%. This is a good, reasonable, of course, percentage, but do expect more and more. I do believe, many people believe that yes, oil did play a role, but also non-oil sector products have come into play. They were neglected or marginalized. Tourism, entertainment, communications, they have come into play. So do you agree? I do agree 100% with you, Mr. Talat. No doubt, beyond the shadow of doubt, that the increase in the non-oil sector products has a relative value, because they are sustainable. So fluctuations is much less in terms of in comparison with the oil sector products. They are highly connected and well connected with the economic performance, be it with the local or national or global economic performance. That is why the non-oil sector improvement, even though it is less than in comparison with less than the oil sector products, but again it is more sustainable. Unlike the oil prices products. Ladies and gentlemen, and now I'd like to welcome to Dr. Sidra Rahman, the International Monetary Fund expert, Middle East and Central Asia, to speak further about the financial issues and policies relating to the International Monetary Fund.
And before diving into other aspects of Saudi Arabia's economy and the IMF's role, it makes sense to first cover IMF 101. Let's take a step back in terms of IMF's mandate. Surveillance, which includes global, regional and country surveillance, capacity development and program lending. Let's now talk about surveillance at the country level. Country surveillance is an ongoing process that culminates in regular, usually annual comprehensive consultations with individual member countries, with discussions in between as needed. The consultations are known as Article 4 consultations because they are required by Article 4 of IMF's Articles of Agreement. During an Article 4 consultation, an IMF team of economists visits a country to assess economic and financial developments and discuss the country's economic and financial policies with government and central bank officials. IMF staff missions also often meet with parliamentarians and representatives of business, labor unions, and civil society. The team reports its findings to the IMF management and then presents them for discussion to the executive board. The board represents all of the IMF's member countries. A summary of the board's views is then transmitted to the country's government. In this way, the views of the global community and the lessons learned of international experience are brought to bear on national policies. Summaries of most discussions are released in press releases and are posted on the IMF's website. For Saudi Arabia's case, for instance, we had a staff visit which was followed by an in-depth 2-week Article 4 mission. During this mission, we met with officials in the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, Ministry of Energy, Human Resource and Social Development, Ministry of Agriculture, among others. This way, we get a holistic view of the economy and are able to provide a comprehensive assessment and provide policy advice that is tailored to Saudi Arabia.
We have listened, ladies and gentlemen, to Dr. Sidra Rahman, the International Monetary Fund expert, Middle East and Central Asia, about the consultations of the International Monetary Fund policies and article. Now moving ahead to our next theme and topic to speak more about the most important indicators about the national economy. We'd like to speak you with Dr. Abdullah, if you allow me, please. The International Monetary Fund announced in its annual report expectation that the national economy of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to record to be 7.6% this year, and then 7.4 later, of course, as the highest growth, of course, for the world countries, for the G20. The question is how the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has reached this kind of economic growth and development. The highest economic growth and development across the world. Again, this growth, it was not a surprise because the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia government in the COVID-19 pandemic and has made this crisis opportunity so that it can be more ready and more prepared for the future demand. Again, if we look back into the expectations of the International Monetary Fund, we see that expected growth and development supported by the oil sector and non-oil sector. If we look into the first half of the year, it is expected for the GDP to be 10.8%, supported by the oil sector, which is expected to be 21.7% of course, and also the non-oil sector. All these indicators gives us like that understanding that there is a growth in the national economy across the year, and also the labor force. We have high levels of employment and so many job opportunities being created. Again, if we come to the banking, credit and guarantees, we have such a great level of growth, of course. Equally important, we spoke about some economic indicators, other economic indicators, such as, for instance, government procurement indicators. If we look into the recent 6 months, we see that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in average, of course, recorded 56 point, which means that the Saudi economy is increasing, growing in this stage and also into the future. The International Monetary Fund spoke highly and, of course, spoke highly of the procedures and measures made by the government, initiatives, of course, which are the main motivators and drivers. So, well noted and well said. The Saudi finance has maintained high levels of control and discipline in terms of expanding and also enhancing returns and revenues. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has achieved such a great increase and enhancement. The question is taking, of course, among the steps adopted by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, so that it has reached up to ranking 16. We hope to be like 15, and we hope also to be among the 10. As you've said, Mr. Talat, there is big ambition to be among the best 15 economies across the world. Speaking of the G20, of course, in 2020, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was ranked 18. Today, we're speaking about ranking 16, and more than 830 billion. Of course, we expect ourselves to be at the end of the year, of course, to be higher and higher based on the quarterly assessment. As we've said, more indicators, more praises received by the international entities, the discipline and the control adopted by the Saudi financial policies in the COVID-19 pandemic, and the way we overcome the challenges which have been also faced by the world countries is one of the most important factors that contributed well to our own maintenance of the financial policy. I think that there are three indicators that we felt. First of all, the economic growth and development in comparison with the world countries. You're speaking about great and giant leaps, and as we've said, they're referred to by the international reports. Of course, speaking of the G20 countries, we are the highest among these G20 in terms of the fastest economic growth. We also speak about the unemployment rates. Even at the mid of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Kingdom of Serbia has, of course, achieved the highest level of employment. So there was a kind of decrease in the unemployment rates, which is very much positive at an excellent rate. The third indicator is the inflation rates or percentages. The world countries are suffering from the inflation rates of percentages because they went beyond the natural. We're speaking here about 2.3. Yeah, true. And it is expected that this will be contained and confined up to like 2.8 by the end of this year. So these indicators taken together refer to the fact that the Kingdom of Serbia is going away and getting ahead, of course, based and inspired by the Vision 2030 through the programs and initiatives that we have worked hard on. Of course, if you notice with me, across all the aspects and sectors, whether the oil sector and non-oil sector, there is much hope and more indicators by the reports. Let's go to the global competitiveness. So just notice that the Kingdom of Serbia has made 8 ranks from 64. Now it is 24 just among the world countries. Just imagine, it is among the best 24 economies in terms of the global competitiveness. This is one of the most important indicators. So the Kingdom of Serbia is making much headway, more achievements, of course, across the world. So no doubt we are today 16 and will be more and more across the G20, and we may be up to very much positive figures. Speaking of the final communique or statement, speaking about the women enablement and participation. Yeah, it was expected to be 30, or the target was 30%. And it was like 33% in terms of the unemployment today. The women contributions went beyond the target. It was like about 36. Dr. Abdul Wahab, the financial policies focus on the management of gains and benefits, particularly of course oil products, through the implementation of different initiatives adopted. So the question is, what are the transformation and reform initiatives that you have worked on? This is true. Over the recent year, the Kingdom of Serbia has implemented so many reforms in terms of financial restructuring and reforms. This is part of the Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Serbia in order to enhance the financial performance and management. Also, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia management has taken important steps in order to enhance the financial structure, also working hard on so many reforms, including returns of revenues, and also diversifying the resources of income, and also enhancing the energy prices, and also developing the procurement system of government, of course. Equally important, enhancing the monetary management and system and ecosystem, and also the unified or single account enhancement. Equally important, the reports and the statements made by the Ministry of Finance. Again, creating so many centers and authorities that support well, of course, the management of the public finance plays such a great role. They all, of course, contributed well as a key factor in order to enhance the public finance management. Again, of course, the government, the public expanding ecosystem in such a way that give us highest economic returns, social economic returns and revenue. This is in brief. You reminded me of the public finance. How was the fund before 2015, before His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, before it was restructured, and the board of directors was restructured from 3 trillions up to highest level. So many projects, so many job opportunities have been created. We are very proud of this, Dr. Abdullah. I would like to conclude with you this topic. We always speak about the International Monetary Fund. The Public Investment Fund aims to be trillions of dollars, which is like a big green field, increasing also the portfolio companies that can be up to 60%. What do you comment on this, please? Thank you so much, Mr. Talat. Before speaking about this, I need to speak a little more about the features of the Saudi economy. When we speak about any economy, for investors, in order to make their own decision, they take into consideration so many factors and indicators. The population composition of a given country and the demographic composition, presby, of course, to the composition of the population in the Kingdom of Saudi. We have more than 70% of the population of the Kingdom of Saudi, less than 30 years, who, of course, this creates a kind of society which enhances, of course, decision making for investors. The second point is that we have a strong and robust banking ecosystem which can support. Back to the question about the PIF. The PIF is considered one of the most important investment arms in the Saudi economy. We speak about the future growth and development, whether short-term or potential GDP. That is, it plays such a good role. I mean, the PIF plays such a great role through enhancing the local content, enhancing the non-oil sector exports, and also getting engaged in different new sectors, creating new job opportunities beyond a shadow of doubt, getting engaged in new sectors which catalyze, incentivize, and motivate investors to get engaged more for more investment activity. This is very important, of course, and it is a key enabler for this. Speaking about 150 billion, of course, this is something that's supposed, but speaking about the third topic, which is one before the final one, I'd like to speak a bit more on the programs of Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi to enhance economic sustainability and stability. Further to speak with you, Dr. Mohammed, about the third topic. Ever since Vision 2030 was launched in the Kingdom of Saudi, the Kingdom of Saudi has worked to launch so many programs, projects, initiatives that aim to enhance the GDP in terms of economy and finance. So what is the role of Vision 2030 to enhance the national economy? When we speak about Vision 2030, we speak about, in reality, what is felt there in reality. Vision 2030 plays such a great role and contributed well enough in the Kingdom of Saudi. So if we just contemplate and think about the COVID-19 pandemic, and we came out of it with the least, of course, loss. So many challenges have been faced by so many world countries, so many programs, projects, initiatives have been launched by the government, of course. They all move the national economy, so many activities have come into play, and also new activities have been, of course, created. We speak about like different activities such as tourism, entertainment, so many sectors. They did not come into play in the past. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, true. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, true. This is the target. This is the object. We need to have an ambitious nation, ambitious country, a thriving economy that is full of life. So, Mr. Talat, you asked Doctor about the PIF program. Just imagine, this is one of the most important program of the vision of 2030. The national strategy was launched, of course. So it will be a quantum leap over the 5 years. Today we need to be all working into the Vision 2030. It brings about 150 billions into the national economy. Today the PIF created more than about 55 companies. The PIF is going to create thousands, hundreds of thousands of job opportunities, which means that there will be more job opportunities. When we speak about job creation and job opportunities being created, we need to know more who is enabler, who enables what. So there is a kind of enablement for the whole national strategy. Let me link it with the national investment strategy, which is another side which is very important today, the national investment strategy, which brings about $12 trillion, which is very important to bring more and more foreign investments or local investment, enabling private sector also job creation. So we see so many sides, the PIF and our own investment vision. Yes, and the National Investment Fund, of course, development funds will always play such a contributory role into so many sectors. Moving ahead to you, Dr. Abdul Wahab, how you see this kind of reflection of the Vision 2030 on the national economy? It was little while we have opened big sectors over 5 years. Beyond the shadow of doubt, we see all the economic activities and sectors have come into play by the Vision 2030. It of course motivated and sped up of course the economic activities across different sectors. The private sector today is so much diverse. Job opportunities that are now have come into play today were not in the past, of course. Yes, the private sector is being enabled and is enabler as well. No, it's just like risk taking, but also risk management. We also so many sectors that did not have come into play in the past. Tourism, for instance. Well, actually, they were in reality, but they were not promoted so much. So we need such sectors to come into play. We need them to be promoted. Dr. Abdullah, back to you. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia started in 2016. The vision of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia 2030, of course, has started to be based on a thriving economy and ambitious nation based on, of course, 6 pillars, and also enhancing the efficiency of the government and what has been so far implemented in order to translate these objectives into reality. Thank you so much for this question. Let me start answering this question about what has been gone, how the national economy has gone through this. Of course, we see, if we look into the different economies, they have gone through what is known as rentier economy, then the service, then of course the knowledge based. So, but in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we has made it starting from the rentier economy, particularly the oil and the petrochemicals economy, and then we're moving ahead somehow into the service economy after achieving. What about the industrial? Yes, we started, of course, the national industrial economy, but again, if we look into the targets of the Vision 2030, we see that they are taking us into the achievement of all the targets, which is industrial or industry-based economy that is robust, enhancing the service economy, and then making it able to absorb the crises, and also making our economy more knowledge-based, which is environmental friendly. The most important plans that have been achieved, they can be, of course, summarized in a set of strategies and a set of programs. For instance, the program of the development of logistics and national industry, which is IDLIB, which aims to making the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia an industrial hub that is leading and a platform for the logistic services across the world. If we look also deeply into the national investment strategy that has been assessed by the PIF, the International Monetary Fund, which is assessed to be 4.8 as an addition to what is expected to be there. So in total, the growth or the contribution of this strategy for the entire the total potential GDP is expected to be 8.8 in the short term. Also, the national investment, the national logistic strategy and the PIF, they all support and contribute to creating what is known as productivity, national productivity for the national economy, and this will achieve a great growth in the economy. Of course, we have referred to Mr. Talat about this, what has happened to the restructuring of the labor market in terms of job creations, lower levels of unemployment, enhancing local content. We see these coming into play in reality. Doctor, you said IDLIB, and it looks into it was almost marginalized, and we see it coming into play, the results. So many economic cities are coming into play in addition to knowledge-based economy. we have about 100 fintech companies over a short period of time. Moving ahead to Dr. Mohammed, if you allow me to speak a bit further, one of the most important objectives of the Vision 2030 is supporting the initiatives and also enhancing economic transformation. So many investment initiatives have been launched, of course, supported by the private sector under the umbrella of the PIF. Dr. Mohammed, how do you see the participant engagement of the private sector in order to enable the economic transformation? You can speak freely. The private sector today is no longer an option whether to work in tandem with the private sector. Today, the private sector should be as a success key partner. That is why the Vision 2030 of the Kingdom Survey will make the private sector a key partner, a key success partner. It will enable, of course, the private sector in order to, of course, in terms of the government assets and also to be privatized. This has come for the sake of the private sector, that it used to complain that there was that kind of employment. That is why this kind of complaints are no longer there. Vision 2030 has changed the entire strategy. True, Atimad platform, strategies that have been launched, initiatives, program projects. Each ministry has different initiatives that can cope up with the private sector. So the private sector, as you said, it is now looking for venture investments because it is being supported, enabled. So we have gone beyond this. That is why now we have the big future for the private sector. The private sector itself plays such a great role, big role, and also it will play such a great role, particularly when it comes to investments. I'm speaking about the national investment strategy is the one that will lead the vision into the future, or in the future, because through which I see it is a roadmap for the future across so many investments, be it foreign investments or national investments that will be enabled by the private sector. With this in mind, the private sector, of course, I believe that it started to feel and sense this kind of responsibility, even the outcomes, the deliverables, the outcomes in terms of education authorities, entities, academic entities, institutions that have now come to understand that what is meant by, or what is the stakeholders need, because there was a high level of preparedness and preparation. The applied colleges, we have like more than 71 colleges. They will come into different pathways and tracks for the public education. Of course, they will also support the human resources. They will be stronger even in the green energy, the renewable energy, because it will look for like more opportunities. The enablers are there. Dr. Abdul Wahab, so many programs, initiatives for the Vision 2030 in the private sector, public sector. This is what is important for me. So they aim always to diversify exports. The question is how the program can enhance the private sector, and this program when we speak about. Please go ahead. At the beginning, Mr. Talat, I would like to speak about one thing, which is the financial program is one of the most important financial programs launched by Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Serbia in order to achieve the strategic goals and objectives. The program itself worked recently and achieved so many targets. A number of digital banks have been, of course, licensed, increasing the e-payment. You see, today we see this kind of e-payment. It is the first time in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia history. You see, in 2021, we have reached up to 57% in terms of e-payment, which is a leap, a giant leap in terms of the e-payment. Also, the program itself increased the lending percentages for the enterprises, SMEs, and also to have higher levels of banking financing. And also, in addition to the development of the financial markets, including, of course, the listed companies, as of 2017. With this in mind, of course, the program, this program is very important. Why? Well, because it deals with an important sector. Financial sector is very important because it plays such a great and vital role as an enabler for all sectors. It provides financing and the credits, and so the program per se has provided so many achievements over the recent period of time, and it is expected more achievements will be implemented. Of course, the program targets or seeks to enhance the lending, financing, and credit, and also increasing the digital and innovative solutions and the fintech solutions. This is in brief about the roles being played. The stock market and the product, the financial stock market and the monetary products and services. Ladies and gentlemen, would like to go back again and listen to the International Monetary Fund, Dr. Sidra, to speak about the progress made by the Kingdom.
Under the vision, important steps have been taken to improve the regulatory and business environment and attract foreign investment, including by enacting more than 300 initiatives and regulations since inception. The National Competitiveness Center focuses on reducing costs associated with setting up a business and enhancing competitiveness by developing financial policies to support investment. Digitalization has accelerated as shown by the growing role of e-government and e-commerce. We are already starting to see the gains from Vision 2030. These initiatives, combined with broad-based efforts to improve governance and reform labor markets, have helped boost female labor force participation, improve the ease of doing business, for example, a one-stop shop to register a business in just 3 minutes, increase the number of industrial facilities, and increase investment in line with the National Investment Strategy. Overall growth was robust at 3.2% in 2021, in particular driven by a non-oil sector that was rebounding. And in 2022, GDP is expected to expand by 7.6%, the fastest growth in almost a decade, according to our recent Article 4 consultation report. However, significant challenges remain, including the limited FDI inflow despite the significant increase in 2021. Simulations conducted with IMF's DIGNAR 19 model assess the potential impact of the National Investment Strategy and finds that the overall goals, when supported by fiscal reforms, labor supply reforms, and higher public sector efficiency, could boost potential non-oil growth by 4.8 percentage points. Going forward, the structural reform agenda, which focuses on private sector-led growth bolstered by the PIF, should continue to be implemented with a focus on efficiency and catalyzing private investment. Utilizing its strong asset base and strategic economic partnerships, PIF is committed to unlocking new sectors for investment in the economy, including the green economy, manufacturing sectors, and the services sectors. However, its interventions, including in giga projects, should continue to be subjected to rigorous cost-benefit analysis to ensure high returns and avoid crowding out private investment. The reforms should also continue to be implemented in a steadfast manner to generate more inclusive, broad-based, and sustained growth. Vision 2030 is built on 3 key pillars: an ambitious nation, building a thriving economy, and a vibrant society, of which the second pillar focuses on diversification. Economic diversification is fundamental to economic development, particularly in Saudi Arabia and the GCC countries more broadly that predominantly rely on hydrocarbons. This entails a movement towards a more diverse production and trade structure, and consequently, a diversified revenue base. This can boost productivity, create jobs, and provide a foundation for sustained, inclusive, and green growth. Economies tend to grow by upgrading their export baskets to focus on sophisticated industries, that is, industries conducive to productivity gains and spillovers. On a cross-country basis, there is a dynamic link between export product sophistication and economic growth. Saudi Arabia has successfully diversified its economy in the past decade. The kingdom has started diversifying away from hydrocarbons with an acceleration witnessed since 2016 and has witnessed a reduction of the oil sector's contribution across revenue, export, and output dimensions. The progress can be attributed to the multifocal reforms which underpin the vision unveiled in 2016. Saudi Arabia has reinforced its position as a global player in the export of oil and petrochemicals, the latter of course being a byproduct of its strong oil sector, but is also considered a sophisticated product. However, successful diversification will hinge on continued implementation of the ambitious reform agenda, while minimizing inefficiencies that accompany industrial policies, as well as ensuring the following. 1. Well-coordinated policies to foster backward linkages, for example through high domestic value added, and forward linkages with a focus on downstream activities. And second, upskilling and reskilling the current workforce to remove skills gaps and mismatches, and better aligning educational programs with employers' needs.
Moving ahead to speak about the fourth topic, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has always been engaged in enhancing reforms, financial reforms and economic, which is environmental friendly. The question is, how did it play such a great role in enhancing the financial and economic sustainable stability? We see how the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has made great restructuring. It will be clear over the upcoming years, because beyond the shadow of doubt, their positive results build themselves through restructuring. We're speaking here about the role, because the country itself used to be in the past, of course, dependent very much on oil sector, but now we don't want to be tied down to oil prices. Government expending used to be like on high oil products and benefits. Today we have such a big role in terms of following up what the reforms, the transformation, the restructuring. So it is the decision making being taken quickly that plays such a good role for the national economy to true. If you cannot, of course, cope up with the opportunities being made, enabling others, so that you contribute to changing policies, regulations, laws, so that reforms can be in reality and not protective. We cannot achieve our own targets and objectives. That is why the government has a real ambition, a real hope by national Saudi citizens across all sectors. We've been successful across all sectors, and these reports today are being published. They cannot be complement to our own. You see, they speak about the like they say that the European economy is going back, the Chinese European economy is going back. So that is why the economies of the West countries is going back, while the national Saudi economy is making much headway and progress. Because of what? Because of the reforms of economy and finance. About 600 reforms in economy, which has brought us up to here. Dr. Abdul Wahab, of course, the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has worked in tandem with the international efforts to achieve the international objectives through different initiatives and projects, such as the Green Saudi Arabia initiative. The question is, how do you see the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia contribution and participation in this regard? How. Of course, the contribution and the engagement of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is so much encouraging and promising. There are always much room and space for motivation, incentivization. The vision of the Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia focused more on this, on renewable energy and the mixed energy or hybrid energy. Also, if we look back into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, when it presided, of course, G20 summit to lead the international effort to restructure and develop what is known as the economic framework of the circular carbon economy, which of course was approved by the G20 leaders in the summit. Also, the announcement of His Royal Highness Crown Prince that the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia targets to be zero carbon emission in 2060. There is one more thing. There are so many ambitious targets. For instance, Aramco targets or seeks to target to be zero carbon emission in 2050 through what? Through following a methodology of what is known as circular carbon economy. Equally important, there are great efforts made and put in by the Public Investment Fund through the ownership of the electric auto manufacturing, and also the seriousness of the government in this regard through submitting a request to buy 100,000 cars. True, it will be like electrically charged cars. Equally important, there is one more thing. There are great efforts made by the Public Investment Fund and the government for the green bonds or instruments or tools, so that they can be adopted into the banking system. So taken together, they all contribute to the seriousness of the government of the Kingdom. I'm not an energy expert. Even our oil production is the least carbon emission, but again we target in 2060 to be zero level in terms of the carbon emission. But more than this, the target was up to 30 tons. But again, it was like 68. So it is an ambitious target. This was referred to by International Monetary Fund. Yeah, Mr. Dr. Abdul Wahab, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has overcome, given the COVID-19 pandemic repercussions and also the great efforts made by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in terms of the core reforms and the high prices and the low prices and the fluctuation prices. What are the challenges that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has gone through in this regard? More, how the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has overcome these challenges. Yeah, the challenges are there, but how we have overcome this COVID-19 pandemic is not just on the national economy, but also on the world economies. And it is unprecedented crisis across the world. Given thanks go to Allah and to the wise leaders of the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, a number of or a set of policies have been implemented, such as, for example, the application of protective and precautionary measures. Of course, the first important of which was like the safety and health of citizens and residents, also including the increase of the allocation of the Ministry of Health, because it was not included in the preparation of the budget. It was just like off the cuff. It was not prepared. So they managed to increase and to provide these kind of financial requirements. In addition, I can simply say we are the best across the world in terms of the digital solutions and NFT solutions, particularly when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic. This was a big recognition and acknowledgement by the United Nations. Digital solutions and NFT solutions have come into play, of course, in addition to what? In addition to the support for the private sector, whether direct or indirect, to support the private sector to overcome the big challenges, of course, imposed by COVID-19 pandemic. Again, maintaining the financial sustainability today, as you know, it is not just like one shock, but two shocks. One that is health-based shock, which requires intervention for the private sector, but also the decrease of oil prices. So there was a balance. It reached down to zero. Yeah, very low levels. But again, there was a kind of management, and it maintained the financial sustainability. Today, we see how this has come into play, big economic development and growth after the COVID-19 pandemic. So also the increase in the oil prices, they all taken together have supported the progression of reforms and the implementation of the programs and projects of the Vision 2030. It is, at the end of the day, a success granted by Allah and the wise leadership of the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, all the way down to the hierarchy of all the entities of the private sector and the public sector. Before I conclude, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has worked hard on the regulatory and control system, including the programs and of the support of the private sector. The question is, what are the reforms taken by the government in order to support the financial stability and sustainability and stability of the private sector? We spoke about this, that we have one key object and goal for the financial sustainability and stability, through which, of course, you can build your own future plans. But let me focus on one thing: how the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has worked on restructuring and control as well at the same time, because that was one of the most important parts that helped us further to reach up to this level of sustainability. We have not achieved everything. We worked to achieve so many things, but I do believe that what we have achieved so far in such a short period of time, more positively, this is something that we are very proud of, because this is appraised by the international monetary experts, monetary fund experts. We are speaking about 6 to 7 years. Just imagine ourselves where we were before Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We are speaking about big numbers now. What I'm saying, this is our natural in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This is a natural position or a status, because we work hard on exploiting and taking advantage of the natural resources and other factors. Human resources are there. So there was a kind of harmonization between all the human resources. willpower and passion of the leaders of the government. There are big efforts made. Of course, this is a place of pride that we always seeing His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is always taking great leaps, not just at the national level or economy. The vision of His Royal Highness Crown Prince, it will also reflect positively, not just on the national level, but also across the region, across the world, where we will have like a new Middle East. The new projects will make the Middle East, will make it like the new Europe, because of the bigger projects on the Red Sea, on the Gulf, up in the north. That is why we benefit from the geographical location and sites of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. These are projects that come into play in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, inside the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They are not focused on one side, they are across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and beyond the shadow of that, the national Saudi will benefit along with the national economy. So it is not just Vision 2030, it goes beyond the 2030. We need to be further beyond this, but this is the beginning. Before I conclude, 1 minute, any contribution you'd like to provide, please. Thank you so much, Mr. Talat. At the beginning, I always seek that this positive look for this Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will be always there, and more achievements to be made. Of course, this is a challenge, but yet more to be yet done. Dr. Abdul Wahab, please go ahead. I ask Allah to always guide us for our economic performance. You play such a good role in the Ministry of Finance because also going ahead and making much headway for the financial strength and hub to maintain it. This will further support the implementation of so many initiatives and the programs yet to be played. Of course, here the Dr. Mohammed, beyond the shadow of doubt, give us something that we are always proud. Give us something that we are always very much proud across the universities in the public sector education. We always are proud across. We hope to do so. We hope, beyond the shadow of doubt, all the sectors are working hard. But again, if there is one final word, which is we are as Saudis very proud of the achievements we have so far made, yet more to be achieved for the Kingdom of Saudi into the future, for the current generation and the future generations will be more positive. The continuation, making much headway progress, more reports to be issued by the international entities for the achievements of the national economy. At the end of this meeting, I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude for every one of you. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Wahab, Dr. Mohammed, and also I would like to express my appreciation for everyone. Again, Dr. Sidra from the International Monetary Fund, who of course has helped us more. Also, I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude for the government communication center. I'd like to express my appreciation and gratitude for our speakers, keynote speakers, for accepting this invitation. Hoping to see in upcoming meetings and events. Hoping always more and more achievements for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to be such a great leader across the world. More and more, praise be to Allah, and then the wise leadership and leaders, the King Custodian of Holy Mosque and the Crown Prince, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed. Thank you.